Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Now let's talk about something else. And national service, a term we are all too familiar with. Now, per the National Service Act 426 of 1980 and in conjunction with Article 41 Clause 8 of the 1992 Constitution, all persons who have completed their first degree diploma or other qualifications are required to render a year of service to the country in any place or institution the person is posted or placed. Now, it is in compliance with this provision that thousands of fresh graduates or prospective graduates are enrolled for national service every year to offer service to the country in various fields and capacities. Now, the problem, however, for many in the past years has been the amount of money paid by the Secretariat as allowance. Well, that discussion is on the table once more as some personnel demand an increase in the service allowance following the high cost of living in the country currently. Let's get into the crux of the matter. And joining me now in studio to help us with the discussion is Stephen Senyo Tetega. He's convener for a group, and MFA Siale, who is secretary for the Concerned National Service Personnel Association, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
So I'm just trying to understand one thing here. So now you have an association, Concerned National Service Personnel.
This is a group of prospective national service personnel who believe that the conditions under which personnel do their service is far not favorable. So there is a need for us to come together to push this very cause.
Okay, so I have here with me a petition by this very group. It's actually a 3-page document, and they cite quite a number of things in here as reasons why they believe the service allowance should be increased. But maybe I could just hear from you. Let me hear from you, MFA. What are these reasons you speak of? Aside the fact that obviously you're speaking of a high cost of living in the country, what other reasons are you giving in this statement?
First of all, we took in consideration the transportation cost, cost of feeding, utility cost, rent cost, and then the fact that this allowance has been the same for the past 2 years now. Despite the fact that prices of items have increased, rent prices have increased, utility bills have increased, and all that. That's why we are pleading for an increment in the allowance.
Okay, so one would say it's just been 2 years. Usually, it takes a longer period for the Secretariat to review these monies. For a very long time, some people were taking just about 150 cedis for a very long time. So, yes, for some, maybe you might have a genuine case, but would you say it's a bit harsh or rash for you to start making such demands, particularly seeing that it's just been 2 years since the last review was done?
I think that we cannot say it's just been 2 years, because 2 years takes a lot. Now, the cost of accommodation or renting a room to stay in, the cost of food, the cost of transport fare has not remained the same over these 2 years. And so I think that now prices of commodities and goods have almost doubled over these 2 years. And considering that context, it's right for us to call for or plead for the government to see an increment in the money, because 2 years is long, considering the current rate of inflation. We've seen 18.9 over the month. It was just yesterday or this week that we see a drop from 18.4. So if you look at how things have increased from 2013, 2014 to this particular year, I think that it's in the right direction to call for an increment in the allowance that personnel receive.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying now, but just joining us in the studio now is the Public Relations Officer for the National Service Secretariat, Ambrose Intia, who just joined us in the studio now. We'll take a break while he takes a seat to join us. When he joins us, we can take a critical look at some of these issues that have been raised by this very group. Or they are saying that they need an increase in the service allowances. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Now let's continue with that discussion, because I did tell you that the Public Relations Officer for the National Service Secretariat, Mr. Ambrose Intua, had joined us in studio. We thank him for his time. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So he's just here to help us understand whether or not there's even a way around this very situation, this issue by these young men and women who want an increment in the service allowances that are paid by the Secretariat. let me first find out from you. I mean, these claims being made by these prospective personnel, they're legitimate, aren't they?
Sure, they are. They're legitimate. I think the agitations have been there for the past 1 year or so. And I must say that we had even started working on that before they formally came in with their, should I say, concerns being expressed by
a petition.
A petition, so to speak. Yes. So, yes, we do acknowledge the fact that things have changed, economic situations have changed, and all that. The issue that I may have to put on record is that we've heard that they're saying that every year allowances are increased. Allowances are not increased every year. I'm not saying that it's them. Yeah, but it's in some quarter. That's why I want to put that one on record. Now, we have also acknowledged the fact that they have made some legitimate claims, and we are working at it. I must say that the issue has received serious attention. Management has received it. This petition has not come to us formally, but I'm saying that even before that, we had received some of the complaints, and we had discussed at management level. We had submitted to the board for attention. Last month, we met the regional directors of the regional executives of NASPA. For those who are just about to exit, and I'm sure the gentleman knows that there is an association called NASPA. Yeah. Sure. So they are regional president, regional executives. All of them met in Accra somewhere last month, and they sent a resolution to board through management, and we had a discussion at the board level, and the board accepted it and forwarded same to the ministry. So the issue has even gone beyond the secretariat. It's gone beyond management and the board. It's at the level of the ministerial discussion, so that it will be done. So I must say that we specifically want to put on record that most probably, I'm being careful because I'm not a policy maker, but I know that discussions have gone very far, that by the time they start their service in September, would have issued a very firm statement on that.
So there's going to be an increment. That we are very sure of.
Very sure about that, sure.
Okay. By what percentage?
I cannot tell. You know, negotiations always, you cannot put any percentage.
What's the proposal on the table now?
I'm constrained by certain circumstances.
No, it's just a proposal.
Yeah, so sure, but obviously, but then it's important also to go by certain established principles. You go into negotiations, you look at what is on the table, you look at what is, should I say, relevant, you look at what is possible in terms of a national kitty and all that.
So we understand that. I'm just saying the board has forwarded something.
We are dealing with national service personnel.
I understand what you're saying.
If you allow me, if I make any proposal here, the next moment you see it on all the platforms that I have announced increase in allowances of this. No, I'm not talking about you. I am on about 4 platforms of service personnel. I know what goes on. So even when I grant an interview to a radio station and I say, oh, there is a possibility of an increase in allowance, then it is said that I have announced that increases will be coming. But I want to be sure. What you said. I want to be sure. I want to be sure of what the state would provide for the service persons, and naturally we would come to announce.
Okay, so we understand that. Fact is, there's going to be an increment. That's now right. We are looking at the percentage increment. So, is it to suggest that we can't tell whether or not these service personnel may be earning about 500 Ghana cedis at the end of the month?
We cannot talk about that for now until we get approval from government.
Is it possible that with this proposal, should this proposal be granted, service personnel will be taking a minimum of say 500 Ghana cedis at the end of the month?
I cannot give a figure for now, because you may make a proposal and you go.
I want us to work with the proposal. Yeah. Whether or not government accepts us, that's a different case. But I want us to work with the proposal. So
if for instance I tell you that we've made a proposal of, let's say, 400 Ghana cedis.
So that's the proposal.
No, I'm just saying that if you make a proposal for 400 Ghana cedis.
Is that a proposal?
It is not. But okay. I'm saying
so
that.
So how much is it?
No, I'm not in a position to announce any proposal for now.
Is it?
I'm saying that we are.
But you do know.
Exactly, we are going to give the increase definitely, and it is going to take effect from those who are going to start their service. Now, for the fact that they've made claims, and which is legitimate though, that the appointment letters do not state any new figure. Yeah, that is correct. They do not have to entertain any fears. You can start a service in September. If allowance are increased from the service, beginning of the service year, which is September, and you go even into October, November, the arrears will be paid from September. That is how it is done. So I want to allay those fears that they think that because they didn't see anything on the appointment letter, it means we are not going to. We are going to do that.
So it's possible they may start off with the same figure of 350 Ghana cedis,
but possible.
Maybe by January, February.
It is also possible that by the time their first allowance comes,
it's about
the new one
cedis
will come. Well, you are giving figures.
I'm just asking.
It could be 400. It could be 450. It could be anything.
You keep mentioning 400 Ghana cedis. Is that the amount?
No, that's what I'm saying. That you see, when you are negotiating, you don't just give a figure and go out and announce. When you do that, you'll be creating problems for the negotiation. And I'm sure everybody who is into negotiation will tell you, you don't give figure like that.
True.
Now, what is important is that you let them know that there is something in the pipeline coming. And at the end of the day, you announce the figure. That's what is important.
Okay. Any timelines as to when this announcement will take place?
That's what I'm saying, that we are in July. Hopefully, by the time they start a service,
which is
September, we would have announced something.
So in the next 2 months?
Hopefully, most probably.
Okay. Senor, now let me find out from you. This is what the National Service Secretariat is telling you. Yes, they've taken your concerns into consideration and plans are far advanced to increase the amounts you speak of. So, assuming without admitting that, for instance, they say they're going to pay you 400 Ghana cedis, should that be enough? Are you okay with that?
Well, I think that the issue of increment is important, and if they want to increase it, I think it's good news. But then the level of increment also comes to mind, because I mean the increment should be an amount that will be appreciated or appreciable. Now, if we are taking 350, they are taking 350 Ghana cedis now. Now, if you increase it by 1 cedi, it's still an increment, but that increment wouldn't actually reflect in actually.
So that's why I gave a hypothetical situation where they were probably paying 400 Ghana cedis.
Well, personally, and on the group as well, I mean, we've taken these discussions into consideration, and we think that 400 wouldn't help the issue. Now, citing an example from the 2013 and 2014 academic year, for instance, when it was increased, we saw an increment from 243 Ghana cedis to 350 Ghana cedis. That's the current amount now. Now, that is 44% increment, to say that they've added 107 Ghana cedis. So that's the percentage increase you're looking for? 44%. 44%. Okay, we are pegging it at 42.86%.
Are you not being a bit too selfish? Because clearly, it's not just about you. We are looking at the government kitty. We are looking at the amount of money available, and then based on that, we can give you something as allowance. Mind you, this is not a salary. Exactly. It's just an allowance.
Exactly.
So why are you being so specific as to how much you should be paid?
Now, we think that now as national service, we are giving service to the country. That is important. But in a case where the welfare of the person giving the service is not catered for or is threatened, now the commitment to
your welfare is being catered for, though you may say not adequately, but it's still being catered for. So for you to paint a picture that is not being catered for, that would be erroneous.
No. It's being catered for, but the word still comes into be the fact that it's not adequate. So we should see a fair improvement. Now, we cannot have 1,000 Ghana cedis.
You think, for instance, 50 cedis is not fair?
A 50 cedis
That's 50 cedis per
now,
head.
It's an increment, but I don't think it would reflect positively, looking at the conditions now.
My point is 50 cedis per head. If you do the calculations, you see how huge the amount is. Yeah. And you still think it's not enough?
No, we believe that now if more can be done, we can do more other than settle on this. And now, if, like I cited an example of the last time it was increased, now it was because of these same conditions that it was increased from 243 to 350 Ghana cedis. So I think it would only be fair if we cannot see an increase of 107 Ghana cedis. At least it should be better than.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ucha, maybe your take on that.
I'm sure there are certain things that he doesn't understand. I don't blame him for that. It's normal. Coming from the background of a student, I agree. But it's important that we explain certain things. The last increment that he's talking about, if you had gone back the previous years, there had been a bad luck that we had not increased allowance for a long time. And when the increment did come, it fell short of the percentage.
True.
So we had to add up to the last one that we did. That's how we got to the 40-something%. That was the highest in the history of national service, it does not mean that necessarily every increment should be 47. No, it doesn't follow like that. Number two, the issue about economic situations and all that, that is correct. We have posted over 70,000 people. A good number of them are coming to the public sector. There are others who are going to the private sector. Some of the private sector institutions, most of them pay the service personnel themselves. We call them user agencies who are in the private sector or self-supporting sector. You should be able to peg the allowance at a place where they can also pay. Otherwise, all of them will be rejecting the service person. For those of them who want to go into the industry and all the private sector may lose the opportunity of doing that.
Okay.
So when we are doing this, we take into consideration the larger population.
All right.
It's important that we take all these in. And then again, which is very, very important, you said it, this is not salary. National Service Allowance is calculated as a percentage of the civil servant entry into the public service. So you cannot just increase it anyhow. You can't increase allowance such that it becomes higher than a graduate entering into the civil service for the first time. You don't do that.
Okay.
Because we have, it must be at a certain level. That is how we do the calculation. Okay. So we take all this in consideration.
Because of time, we might have to cut short this very interview. But maybe just before we go out, I wanted to find out about the traffic control personnel.
Yes.
That module we introduced sometime last year, and how it's panning out, whether or not even these service personnel are learning anything by directing traffic on the road.
Yes, it's going on well. We have received a number of complaints from the public, from the road users, drivers and all that, and we've also received complaints from the service personnel themselves. But on a larger scale,
what kind of complaints?
For instance, because they are not policemen, they stop the drivers, they refuse to stop.
So there's a possibility they may even be creating more accidents.
But it has never happened, thank God.
But there remains a possibility.
Exactly, I agree with you perfectly. So that is why we have insured everybody. We have given them insurance, everybody has been insured. So, but we are not hoping anything like that should it happen, you are already insured. And we pray that it doesn't. For now, we have not encountered any serious issue.
Are you considering scrapping it, seeing that it's not really serving the purpose for which it was?
It is serving the purpose.
Is it?
Yes, sure. There have been number of situations where policemen have been absent on the road and service personnel are there. But for them, there would have been more chaotic situations being encountered, especially at the various intersections. Now we are going to maintain it. Most probably even increase it to other areas.
So you're going to have more people direct traffic, more service personnel direct traffic.
Sure, we'll send some of them to other urban areas, maybe. We did Kumasi and Accra, so it's possible we'll go to other areas, and other areas. But I must say that the other advantage is that a large majority of them have applied into the police force or police service. I do not work within the police service, but it's possible that they may have an advantage over those who have not been trained in terms of their recruitment processes. So we believe that it's going to help.
All right. Okay. I really wanted us to talk some more about a few other things, but because of the time, I have to cut short this very interview. But many thanks for joining us in studio. Ambusensia is the Public Relations Officer of the National Service Secretariat. He joined us in studio with some answers on the service scheme as it pertains now. Well, what he's telling us now is that there will be an increment sometime in September. As to the exact amount, well, that will be decided at a later time and will be communicated to the general public. Also joining us, also in studio with us earlier, was MFA Siale, who is Secretary for the Concerned National Service Personnel Association, as well as Stephen Senyo Tetega. Stephen, also thank you very much for joining us. Maybe you might be directing traffic soon. So, service to the nation. Service to the nation, indeed. You're still watching News Desk here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. We are taking a break. When we come back, we'll make you updates in business and sports. Stay with us.